can't help if I don't see them. So the responsibility is with the Alabama Counseling Association, who submits the nominees. I'm trying to help facilitate the process.
So what do you do for the Alabama Counseling Association?
I'm the executive director, but I'm of the board, not the association.
Okay.
There's two different entities.
You're the executive director of the board.
And the Alabama Counseling Association is the one that submits nominations to the governor, not the board.
And you don't have any input with the Alabama Counseling Association to say, hey, I'm the executive director of the board, and when we fill these vacancies, we need to make sure we have geographic diversity as is required by statute. You don't do that?
I have now put it in writing to even further get my point across in the last 2 years that I've been involved. Yes.
When you come in Thursday, would you bring those that you have in writing so we can see the dates on those, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Warren, I want to thank you for clarifying. I understand we changed the procurement process and you explained what the problem's been, and I want to thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
When you brought it up, I remembered there has been a change in the procurement process over the last 2 years or so. So thank you.
I've been in a bad situation of knowing it's for a year, and here I am, part of that process, but I'm not the approver of any of that. So it's been a bad situation. And myself, as a business person, I'm glad the procedures are in place for us to get these bids taken care of.
All right, stay close. Representative Underwood, did you have a question?
Thank you. So I've read on here on your report, which thank you for this. It's been, I was up late last night because I was just enjoying going through some of the work you've done. And I know that sounds, twisted, but yeah, I know that's just, it's by nature.
It's okay, we understand each other.
Yes, ma'am. So I would be curious to see, I know we're talking about contracts and emergency contracts. I would like to see the contract. I've never seen it. I don't know what's involved in who does what and what the responsibilities are. Is there any way I could see one of those, maybe the current contract that you're under?
The current contract I'm under is basically a letter, and it just spells out that I do all of the administrative management, blah, blah, blah. Under the new process, there will be an actual contract that is presented to procurement once the bids are finalized and submitted and vetted and approved. And then the contract is developed between the procurement officer, the board's legal counsel, and then it goes to contract review. So we are not there yet, but absolutely. Once that document is prepared, I will be glad to share it with all of the Sunset Committee members. Absolutely.
That sounds good, because I'm sure that would be more detailed. And
yes, sir, it will be. Very detailed.
Yeah. At the moment, though, there is really no detail. It just says you will be the administrator, and that's pretty much it.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Because I noticed in the report it talked about management, administrative services, facilities, and equipment and logistics. And I didn't know any idea about what kind of hours are devoted, what kind of maybe multiples, like not just you, but maybe people within your employment.
Right, yes, sir.
I didn't know what all you're allocating to this particular board.
Correct.
And how to value, that kind of service.
And that will be outlined this time.
Yeah.
How many employees are dedicated to that board? And it's split up between administrative, executive, facilities, equipment.
Okay, so I think I still like to see the letter,
Sure,
just so I can
absolutely.
have it.
Yes, sir.
And I guess what that leads me to is, I just have two more, I'm sorry. This is a whole lot of background work for me.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
I'm not sure how you arrived at the amount that you're charging based on the vagueness of the letter, which is why I'm trying to back into what you provided, by means of whatever, employees, hours, hours matter to me too.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
So I'm curious about how much time maybe that you might have done throughout the most current year, I guess would be good. And also, and this is also historical, because I see numbers rising like on revenues. I don't know if that means more licensees or if the rates went up per licensee. I'd like to know if during the last maybe 4 years, if the rates per licensee were increased to cover whatever cost or anything else.
There has not been a fee increase for your licenses.
Okay, so when we see numbers go up, that just means there's more people getting in the industry and more people. That's good. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. And that's background for me, so I can kind of evaluate, what what those services are. And I appreciate you for doing that.
Yes, sir,
for me.
absolutely. And I'll have an overview of what we've gone through when the office was located in Birmingham and moving it to Montgomery. And Ms. Thomas and I had a conversation about that
Okay.
too, about the increase in revenue. So I'll have information to share, and I'll be glad to email that out prior to
Yeah.
the meeting on Thursday.
That'd be great. Will
Absolutely.
that come
Thank
to you and then to us, or I'm not sure how it gets to me?
I'll send it to
Chairman Barfoot, and then they will distribute it.
How you doing, Chairman? Good to see you. Yes, sir, doing well. Thank you for the time.
Yes, sir. Ms. Riddle, did you have something to add?
I just wanted to explain that not with just this one, but this is going to be a recurring issue that you're seeing with the administrative type services contracts. Historically, just so you'll know, and why it is incredibly confusing, historically, purchasing has said that that was a non-professional service, and they allowed that just to go through a normal invitation to bid. Our department and legislative members a couple of years ago really got on them and said, if someone is serving as an executive director, that is a professional service. And so we have worked for the past couple of years with finance, and now that has actually been codified in Senate Bill 100. I think it was Senator Orr's bill that says these types of contracts are in fact professional services. When you do that, that follows an entirely different procurement
Right.
process.
Right.
And so that's why there's a lot of confusion, and we've really been trying to work with the Department of Finance because they're the ones in control of all of that. I will say, any of these documents you ever want, we have our working papers and we can share with you. So please always feel free to reach out to Dixie on that. But historically, I wanted you to know this is going to come up with a lot of boards throughout the sunset process this summer.
Thank you. Representative Shedd?
Thank you. Mr. Warren, does this board have any, are there any state agencies or state departments that this board has interaction with, or the state agency or department that is kind of over them in any way? Or do they have?
It is an independent licensing board created by you, the legislature, and then they are overseen by the legislature and the Sunset Committee.
So don't have any connection with other state agencies such as mental health or anything like that?
No, sir. We work with mental health and we provide data to mental health, but they're not an overseeing. There are, now while we're on the topic, I mean, there are several mental health, and you visited one earlier, you know, so there's some options and availability to merge some of those together. Now, they'll tell you they're all distinctly different and all trained differently, but there are a lot of overlapping, and especially with this one in the Marriage and Family Therapy Board, you know, there's some overlapping there. So there's some availability to merge some of these. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Representative Underwood, you're recognized.
I know it's back and forth. I apologize.
Like I said, some of us are very new to this board, so there is ask all the questions you want, in my opinion.
All right. Yeah. Amen. All right. Like Gordon said, we'll go through this together, won't we? Page 16 of this report, I noticed there was a reserve for year-end obligations. They're typically in the 20s, 30s, and 50s. Year-end of 21, 22 was 145. Do we know sort of what pushed that up so high?
I'm sorry, I don't know that right off, but I'll find out.
Okay.
I'll find out and let you know.
Does your firm also do the accounting functions? Okay. So you,
For which fiscal year? And I'll make a note.
2022.
2022? Okay.
yeah, the year-end obligations, which is the accruals basically.
Yes, sir.
Was 145, 414, and that's significantly higher than the prior years. And I just was curious what we accrued
Right.
at year end.
Yes, sir. I'll get that.
All right.
Senator Patrick?
We were just looking at the contract, or talking about the contract, and just looking at the significant findings. And Ms. Thomas, I think I'm correct in saying the significant findings, you know, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 approximately significant findings in this process, right? The fees that, some of this is things you can, control, some of it you can't, as you were talking about, I understand. But for the contract amount that, Smith and Warren Associates are getting paid, we expect there not to be any significant.
Correct,
findings.
yes, sir.
And I think we've been through this before, obviously.